Hey, good day, everybody. Here's part 2 of 25 things successful people refuse to do. Number 13, successful people refuse to let money make them arrogant or take stupid risks. They stay financially disciplined and humble. I think one of the biggest things that I see people making mistakes when they start making a lot of money is they start making investments that really aren't very prudent. They're not disciplined. They trying to hit a home run. I think that's really a big mistake I see a lot of people doing. I think you need to be very conservative in your approach and make sure that you put yourself in a position where you are completely debt-free and financially independent at some point. I know that I've seen lots of people make that mistake over the years, and I'm hoping that start succeeding, you don't make that same mistake. Number 14, successful people refuse to complain about things that are outside of their control. They focus on action and deliberately ignore the rest. Complaining doesn't do you any good anyways, and focusing on what's wrong with everything doesn't do you any good unless you're focusing on the solution to that issue. There's no reason to complain. And by the way, nobody wants to be associated with a complainer. You put people off, and you're in the business of attracting people. Complaining doesn't work. Number 15, successful people refuse to waste their time doing things that don't matter. They maniacally prioritize how they expend their energy. So make sure that you focus your energy and your time on the things that really produce results. That's the bottom line, to produce results. Producing results is the whole key to everything when you're trying to build a business. Everything else is BS, actually. So what you do by how you prioritize is before you go to bed. I say this all the time. I might have already said in the last call. I probably should say it every call, that you should, before you go to bed each night, you should have each hour of the following day planned out. That's one of the things I did for years and years. I never went to bed without planning the following day. From the time I got up to the time I went to bed, I knew exactly what I was going to do hour by hour. Didn't always work out exactly like I planned it, but I had a plan when the day started so that I could hit the ground running and I wouldn't waste time doing something that doesn't really matter. And that's what you're going to need to do. You need to take control of your time. Number 16, successful people refuse to try to be good at everything at the same time. They focus on doing one thing awesomely at a time. Where they see the people tend to have a tendency to try too many things, and I think you need to get focused. One of the things that everybody that I've seen that's been really successful, when they're on a thing, they are focused like lasers on that thing until they become a success. Well, you don't need to be good at everything. You need to be one thing. And I noticed one thing about very well is that they're very good at one thing or the business they're involved in, but they're not good at everything. In fact, they don't know everything about everything, but they're really great at the one thing you do focus their attention on. Number 17, successful people refuse to give up when things get tough. They endure the tough times, innovate past obstacles, and keep trying. One of the things is really all about mental tough. Most people just aren't very mentally tough, and they have some setbacks or things don't go the way they want them to. Their first inclination is say, I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to give up. I'm going to go back to my easy job. They don't really require anything substantial of me, but I get a paycheck every week. But really successful people, they don't do that. When things get tough, they get tougher. Number 18, successful people refuse into the doubters, the critics, or skeptics. They stay focused and mentally disciplined. You cannot be listening to the doubters, critics, and skeptics. You need to eliminate those people from your life. You need to minimize, sometimes if they're family members, you need to minimize contact with them until you get where you want to go. And you need to let them know that that's not okay for them to be telling you those things, because it's, one of the things that happened when I decided to go full-time and quit. I had a high-paying job, and I quit my job to start my business. My dad tried to talk me out of it. He thought I was crazy for doing that. And I said, I said, look, it's already difficult enough to build a business without having doubters, critics, or skeptics. I told my dad, not exactly like that, but in those, roundabout words. And I said, look, I've never come to you and asked you for anything. I've never borrowed money from you. I'm not ever going to borrow money from you. So you really don't have any say in this. So unless you're going to be positive when I'm around, I'm not going to be around. I just want you to know that. So you have a choice. You can be positive or you can be negative. But if you're negative, I'm not coming around anymore. And I actually had that conversation with him because I didn't want him doing that to me. And people will only do to you what you allow them to do to you. So make sure you refuse to listen to the doubters, critics, or skeptics. Number 19, successful people refuse to let anything stop them from following up and following through on what they promise. They deliver. That says it all right there. The bottom line is this, my wife and I, we're always doing business and buying things and dealing, right now in the process of renovating a property that I purchased. It's just amazing how few people do what they say they're going to do, how few people follow up, how you have to stay after people in order to get anything done. It's just the way it is. So you have to refuse to let anything stop you from following through on whatever you promise. Deliver. 20, successful people refuse to think about defeat or success as final. They continue to set bigger goals no matter their previous outcome. So defeat, failure, it's not final. It never is. If you keep going, now it doesn't seem logical to keep going when you've had a defeat or you've had a failure. But you know what? Every successful person, I've read hundreds of biographies and autobiographies of successful people over the years, and one thing they have in common is they refuse to allow defeat or failure to stop them from achieving their goal. They just do. They just keep going. I know it sounds simplistic, but it's really true. They get up and they get after it again the next day, and that's what you need to do. Number 21, successful people refuse to blame other people for their own mistakes. They take responsibility for their actions. It's very rare for people to take total responsibility for their actions, but you must learn to do that if you're going to be highly successful. Number 22, successful people refuse to let current chaos distract them from future success. They get things done each day regardless of what's happening. I have a saying, distraction leads to your economic destruction, and it does. So really successful people do not let that chaos or those distractions distract them from what they're trying to do. They stay focused on that regardless of what's happening. Number 23, successful people refuse to put their ego ahead of achieving epic results. They work on staying humble and teachable. Nothing's a bigger put-off than being arrogant. It's not a very attractive, characteristic. So you stay humble. Doesn't mean you don't believe in yourself. Doesn't mean you're not confident. But there's a difference between confident and being arrogant. Be confident, not arrogant. 24, successful people refuse to lose sight of why they are doing what they're doing. They stay inspired and motivated. People always ask me, how do you stay focused? How do you keep going? Because I knew exactly what I wanted. One of the biggest problems that most people have, they aren't crystal clear on what exactly they want, how they want their life to play out, and the goals they have. It's too ambiguous. It's too cloudy. It needs to be clear. You need to be clear about what you want. If you're super clear about what you want, and it's something that's emotionally stimulating to you, you will stay focused. It's not that difficult, but you got to know what you want. And finally, 25, successful people refuse to think of themselves as anything other than successful, even if they don't have big results yet. They reject negativity. And, one of the things I saw when I was building my business and all over God's creation, training people and putting, thousands and thousands of miles on my car, going from appointment to appointment, city to city, just trying to make things happen, I would always see myself as being successful. I visualized it every single day, every hour of every day of where I wanted to be, and that's what they do. And I rejected all negativity. I do not allow negative people in my life. I just don't. I reject them. And I think that's a smart thing to do if you're really serious about becoming successful.